Idea for a film that you went to them with? It was a kind of, I guess, through the communication that this idea of collaborating on this thing together.
Yeah, so they had some songs, and I've learned that they always have a stockpile of songs that they're working on. And they always have sketches and things that are more fleshed out, and they nicely gave me this huge group of songs. And this huge invitation of like, what would you do? Or could you make something out of this? And also, we're not precious about it, do what you want. And so the whole thing was, just from the get-go, so generous and so sort of just trusting.
Yeah. And from the songs that you were sent, was there an obvious narrative? Was there an obvious journey that you wanted the film to take? Because it's a portrait of life. It's just beautiful.
I feel like that's very their turf. It was very, and I love them. I felt some affinity before I met them. They're like imaginary, non-consensual comrades in my brain. You know? And so it was very natural. This whole thing was like weirdly natural. And no, there's pieces of the film in those original sketches of songs. So a lot of the same lyrics. And it was a little bit of job of just sort of patching a bit of this song with a bit of the bridge, the lyrics from the bridge of this song. And then a narrative sort of came to mind.
And for you guys working this way with someone who has a very clear visual idea of what your music and what your lyrics can bring to them, did that then work backwards for you in terms of finishing the songs or taking the songs on a journey that you hadn't expected? Or
yeah, I mean we sent him a bunch of stuff, and we sent him about 15 or some songs, and then there were 7 of them that he put aside, and he's like, not for me. But then the other ones that were he kind of cherry picked the ones that he felt were connecting with something that he was starting to cook in his mind. I think you did you have any idea at all, or was it
No.
Oh, but then we sent him a bunch of stuff. Then he sent us some ideas back. Sorry, and then Aaron sent him all the stems, all the layered files of all these songs, not just the songs. And I don't know if we expected how much he was going to pull it all apart. We thought he was just going to like adjust the levels. But he tore it all apart and put lyric. He put drums over in front of pull fragments of the songs he was using in a very collagey way all over the film, and it really snapped us out of a rut, and we started pulling apart everything we were doing and writing new stuff. Right? Sort of kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on we put together a folder that Mike had of song ideas, but then he asked, hey, could I have the underlying audio? And what I quickly realized, and it's kind of funny to this day, is like if you're in the studio with Mike and you solo any element, he'll be like, that thing. And you're like, well, that's just the snare drum. And he's like, no, let's just hear that. But so he started to play with these elements, and he kind of made his own album in a way, which you hear in the movie, which is different than the actual album. But it was very inspiring for us because it kind of led us to rethink how we were approaching making an album or songwriting in general, so that I think we were just a lot more open to kind of radical decisions about what could be a song, and taking things in, taking things out, and moving things around. And so we had a lot of fun with that.
and the female voices, which is just, I mean, for me, with the film in mind, it's kind of almost like her different stages in life, her different emotions from the different female voices that you hear on the album, sort of thing. Was the female voices something? At what point did that come in and become part of his project?
No.
Well, I mean, I think when we first saw, I think Mike made the movie, and it was in the process of editing it, and we saw it and we were very inspired. And I think we all felt that the voices that expressed these ideas and these songs, it needed to be a community of voices, not just one voice. And until now, all of our albums obviously have been based around Matt's voice, but I think the idea...
Awkward?
I just sing to what you send me, man. That's good.
But it was an experiment where we kind of, my brother was in Paris and brought together a bunch of friends, some of whom are here tonight, Kate Stables from This Is the Kid and Pauline Delassou, and they sang first actually, and everyone got really excited. They were singing Matt's words and melodies, but it felt like, oh wow, it was elucidating and elevating something in a nice way.
It was, I mean, obviously the film we started being inspired by Mike's ideas, and then my wife Corinne started writing more because of the film. She started seeing more of maybe an angle into this record. I mean, she's always written with us, but this was one where she and Mike started talking about ideas and so the fabric of other voices, not just in the singing, but also in the lyrics and the writing and all that stuff, was, we realized that the way Mike had sort of used all these, the father telling the stories and the mother's things, and the things that repeat throughout the film in terms of this texture of influence on the character, we started really, the identity of the woman in the film is kind of, we saw that Mike was making it out of like all of the influences on her, and so we felt like the record needed to have a fabric of identities and influences, not mapped directly to, not casting the vocals to characters or anything, but just the idea of what makes up an identity. It's all of the influences on you, your mother, your father, even your children change you, and you change, So that collage of what makes a person themselves was what Mike was really digging into, and we really started following that lead, and we let the record sort of go that way too. Was it easy to pick the female voice? Oh, yeah.
Because there's, you have such a distinctive, brilliant voice that, no, you're going to talk, you're not, that it might not have worked with some of the voices, but they all just resonate so beautifully together. Was it easy to find that tone with each other?
Well, I think we're lucky to be part of a large community of musicians, and so you hear, one thing we talked a lot about is we wanted voices of different ages and backgrounds, and so you have Gail Ann Dorsey, who's this amazing, musician in her 50s, I believe, but then there's Ebo, and who just turned 19, and there's Lisa Hannigan and Sharon Manette, and a lot of different kinds of voices, and Mike was really helpful with that in terms of like how we had everyone sing most of the songs, and then we sat together in the studio and kind of, it was almost like you were directing.
I sang them all too, but
I asked you many times.
I loved it. I was like
you.
No, it was really, for me, it was really fun to write and then make someone else perform it, sort of. I was able to sort of write differently, and Corinne was able to write differently, thinking that like it's not all being delivered through this dude, somehow it was just like we just had to break that apart, and it was real relief for me to sort of like write and sing the songs, but then let them just see what's best for the film and what's best for the album. To like, and I was happy to be removed and to play support. And it made me think of writing differently, and it was enlightening and sort of.
It was all experimental. When Bryce first recorded a group of, well, not you, Bryce in Paris first recorded that group of women. Just the name right, I did. We didn't know if it was going to work, if we would put it to the film, if we would like it, and like everything with this project, it was very experimental, very trusting to sort of the process, and we used that original recordings both on the record and the film.
Sorry, did it feel like for you as a fan of the National that you were kind of almost producing a new national record in a way, because you were so involved in the processing, the voices and all that kind of element of stripping?
We told him he was. We were just like, you're pretty, He tried to not.
Well, I think maybe you're getting an understanding that National is so much more than 5 guys. I've listened to National for so long, I didn't quite understand what a community is. so many musicians are so open, they're so collaborative. So I was just kind of part of that. And I think it was unique. I don't think they've ever done that before, but I felt more like it was very easy. It was very fun. It was very fluid. I felt like a fan in the passenger seat of a car that they're driving.
Was the Annette Bening lyric in the song before you emailed Matt?
No, the song Kansas, where Annette Bening is referenced, references a lot of people. But that was like one of the last songs. That was one of the last few songs, and that haven't really fit. That was a stream of consciousness, sort of just like sputtering out everything. There's a 9-minute version that Mike's mentioned. Even Mike's wife is mentioned. There's my masseuse is mentioned. Everyone I've ever met is somehow.
Mike edited the song.
Mike took it.
I edited myself out.
Wow.
He took himself out. Well, I gave the long version to Mike. I said, I just wrote this. It kind of feels like it should be this big long like stream of consciousness as is. Like you can do anything you want, but just like leave this one long and as is. And he said, I totally understand. I love this. I promise that I will. And then about a day later, he sent me a 3-minute version back. Anyway, but it was so. But he was really respectful, but also he's like, I know what you're saying, but I think there might be an also better version. Let's try or something different. And then he put another song inside that, and but it was. Then I heard it, and I was like, that's way better than the 9-minute version, you know. And so we didn't always know exactly why Mike was doing things, but we did. I mean, like, but we knew he had sort of ideas and tangible vision that he was chasing, and we followed him for sure.
At what point did it turn from being songs that were going to be part of this short film project to you guys going, this is a new album for the National, this is a whole album? Was there a conscious conversation about that? Was there a song that spurred that kind of?
I think once the film was existing and he was editing it, and then we were all very inspired by the way he was using the music, and I think we also just felt like, well, we don't want this to be treated as an EP or sort of a concept art project. Let's have this film be a proper film, and let's have the album be this sister brother to it, and fully flesh it out. And I also think it was just an inspiring time for the band, because it was like, oh wow, somebody's doing something interesting with our stuff. Let's like give him a lot more. So then that's why we made a new Dropbox and just started filling it with ideas. And it was helpful because Mike was listening to all the new ideas for music and giving a lot of feedback, and everybody was sort of communicating again in a way that we hadn't done in a while. So it was just kind of caught momentum.
Have you?
So it's really interesting. You're going to hear them play the album, which has a bunch of songs that aren't in the film, but are using either like the subtitles from the film or the story that the father reads to Alicia. And so they did end up stealing from each other without permission, and it didn't need permission, and it was very fun to kind of steal from each other back and forth.
What do you want people to take away from the film?
Whatever they want.
T-shirts. Merch.
Available in the foyer?
Mike designed all the posters and T-shirts. That's true. He designed the album cover and everything, but that's not.
It's like a one-stop shop.
Go ahead.
Mike
Answer the question. Sorry.
I feel like I should say this is like maybe the most beautiful room I've ever presented a film in, and thank you all for watching it.
Should we ask if anybody's got a question or two?
Just one more for me, if that's right. Is there a video for every song on the album? I'm really hoping so, because that's a 66-minute film.
No. Although Mike's made 3 videos now.
Great.
Haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got enough footage
4.
to make a video for every song?
We have some new surprises for everyone with some new amazing female talent, which I won't divulge. But we shot some beautiful things in Paris just a couple days ago, and it's super exciting.
Right. Okay, we've got time for a couple of questions from fans. We've got one microphone. In fact, I'm going to... Sean is there, he's going straight there, and then we'll come over this side. Hello. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Marina. Hi. And my question is there like a rationale behind getting a female bisexual woman as the main character of this film?
So you all heard the question. And that also, Alicia Vikander so wishes she could be here, and so I feel so much gratitude towards her and that she did the project and she just put so much into it. I love writing female characters. I grew up in a matriarchy with two older sisters who are very powerful and a very powerful mother and a really sweet but kind of distant father. So I've spent all my life trying to sort of understand women, I feel like, and I feel very comfortable writing within a female emotional space and sort of cerebral space. And in this day and age, it's wonderful to have a woman in the center of any project. And Alicia I had met recently before, and there's sort of like a little magical connection between meeting them providing this crazy opportunity, Alicia jumping on it, and yeah.
If you haven't seen Mike's last film, 20th Century Women, you must rectify that immediately after the show. Okay, question over here. Who's got the microphone? Do you have a mic? Oh, you've got one there right behind. There we go. Great,
Go ahead.
Hi.
You win. Sorry.
Sorry. So this is not my question. This is the result of a collaborative effort from a bunch of us from the Sorrow Posting group on Facebook, one of the best places on the internet, and in particular from one of our lovely mods, and she's not here tonight. So this question is about Rylan. We eventually got Rylan on record. After so many years that the song had this almost mythical status among the fandom, we were wondering why did you decide to record it right now, if it is the consequence of all that love that we put toward the song, or if we need to thank Mike for forcing you eventually to record the song.
Mike? That's a really interesting question. So they've always been trying to put it on records, and they've been trying different versions, and it never quite fit, and they're very aware of how much people love it and what a piece of the national community that song is. And I remember it has when you hear it on the record, I don't know if you've heard it yet, it has a very triumphant ending. And it has this very just full, rich ending. I remember saying to Aaron, like, oh, I get it. This is you guys thanking your audience. And this is you guys sort of saying, like, I'm with you, back to your audience. So I think, it was very front and center in their minds. And they were very nervous about making the record, like fixing it in a record. It was like one of the more difficult songs, actually, to land.
And there are, a little bit like Lemon World during High Violet, there's like 100 versions. So maybe someday, because we were working a lot, Mike and I, and then at night, like really late, we'd start drinking wine and make a new version of Rylan. And like we did that for many days, and they're all different, so we'll send those out someday.
We have a Rylan album with just like 12 versions.
There's pieces of the original, your Brooklyn studio recording in it. There's many years of Rylan in that one recording.
Yeah, I should say that, and there's a string break after the second chorus, and that's Padma Newsom playing in 2009 in our garage in Brooklyn, so that's cool.
Right, we have got a mic for this gentleman for our last question.
Hello, my name is Leif. Thank you guys all for coming. Actually, the Rylan question is going to be mine, so I'm going to improv a different one. I hope that's okay and don't mess it up.
Be careful.
So, you guys have been creative powerhouses for the past almost 20 years now. And fans have come to expect a lot.
The first 15, we were not powerhouses.
Fans have come to expect a lot from a national record. My question is, over those years and up until now, as you experiment and do new things, do you feel a lot of pressure from, that maybe a new album or a new concept won't necessarily live up to fan expectation, or does that not really enter into the process?
We should, but I think
Trouble Will Find Me, we had felt, we put a lot of pressure on each other, a lot of pressure on ourselves, and the pressure of not disappearing as a band, the pressure of not letting people down, the pressure of just being irrelevant and forgotten was always like really there from the very beginning, you know, and then we stopped worrying about that a little bit. It's still there, 20%. There's just that existential dread of being terrible, but we never found that to be a helpful thing to dwell on. And so I think with Trouble Will Find Me and this record, we really did start to just let the art sort of lead us and chase it. Let the ideas sprout and then keep throwing water on it and see what it turns into, instead of like, okay, I'm gonna make a strawberry plant, you know, and it's not a strawberry, you know, and like you try to force it, and it's a squash, you know. We started like, well, we're gonna put a squash on this record. So we just started letting the songs be what they wanted to be a little bit, and so we started just trusting the process, not the goal or something.
Amazing. Thank you for your questions.